All right, hello and welcome to this lesson where we're going to go over some important tools and techniques that are specific to UI design. So let's go to File, New, and I'm just going to use the same size that I did in the previous lesson, 859 by 600. You can use whatever you wish and hit OK. Control or Command 1 to get to 100%, and let's give this just a simple white background. All right, so when we're working with UI design, there's basically a certain amount of tools that you will use frequently. That would be the type tool, the shape creation tool. Sometimes it may be the pen tool. And generally between those three tools, those are going to be the ones that you use probably the most, along with perhaps the direct selection tool, maybe in some rare cases the eraser tool. But more often than not, that's pretty much going to be it, along with these shape creation tools as well. But usually it's almost always going to be the rectangle tool, more compared to the other ones. So just to give you an example, let's create a menu. This menu doesn't have to necessarily be a part of an app. It could be a part of a website. But just to show you a quick rundown of the type of work that we'll be doing more often than not and the type of tools that we'll be using. So let's go ahead and just assume this is a website. And we're going to create a navigation at the top. So we're going to use the rectangle tool. We don't really have to worry about specifying the color and all that right now. We can always change it after we get the actual shape down in the form. So if we come up to the top, just outside of the document where the canvas begins, we can left click and drag all the way to the right, maybe a nice thick menu right around there. All right, so this, based on this version of Photoshop, the properties automatically just kind of sticks out. Just going to click that to get rid of that. And right now, if I would just click on layer 1 or select something else, it goes away because it's currently white and the background's white, so it blends in. So if we want to change the color of a shape layer, simply double click on that thumbnail area, and we can now give it a color. And it allows us to preview in real time, which is handy. So I'm going to come out to maybe just kind of a desaturated dark blue. So I'm going to use 2A through 33A. You can use it if you wish, or you can use a color code, or any color that you wish. Hit OK. And now that we have this outlined, let's say we want to add some text to it, like the actual menu. If we, with this layer already selected, if we click on the type tool, and we're about to click on here, this is not what we want to happen. It just based on the size of the shape layer that was selected, it made it automatically made it part of a text area where the type no longer was where I clicked. It was instead the size of this. We don't want that to happen. So let me show you how to fix that, because it is a common problem and it's kind of difficult for beginners to understand. So if we have the type tool and we see this is outlined, all we have to do is hit Control H, and now that outline goes away. We can click over here around where we want the menu to begin, and there we go. So let's just go ahead and type some fake menu items. I'm going to hit caps lock. These are all going to be caps, and we'll do home, about. And if I want even space between these, I can just take this, copy it, and paste, and then just change this. Home, about, contact, something simple. If we want to make the adjustment to the size of the font, we can either click on the text, change it up here, or we can hit Control T, and that gives us the transform tools, and we could hold Shift and scale this in, scale it up, or anything like that. So I'll just make it a little bit smaller, select the Move tool, and hit Apply. All right, so let's say we want to add a little bit more space in here. Okay, so now we've created a very, very basic navigation. Perhaps a logo might be over here, whatever. Now let's go ahead and create a hover effect, like what it would look like if we hover over the home as if it were in an actual web page. So what we'll do is create a new layer, or you can click on this button right here. And if you click on that button, it does not give you the dialog, the new layer dialog. If you want that dialog to show up, you either create the new layer from this and select new layer at the top, or you hit Control or Command Shift and N, and that'll give you a new layer dialog. We can use previous layer to create a clipping mask, so let's go ahead and do that. We'll hit OK, and we'll take the rectangle tool and we'll left click and drag up right around here. Now right now it's like a white color, so if we double click on this we could change the color and we'll get this same color here, and then we can maybe just make it a little bit lighter. You know, maybe this is what it's going to look like when somebody hovers over it. So we'll hit OK, and there we go. So now because it's a layer clipping mask, it will not show up out here, even though the actual shape, if I hit Control H, it'll show real quickly. It'll show that it is outside of this area. Okay? So let me show you how you can make some changes to this shape specifically. Now, say for example, we didn't want this to go all the way vertical. Let's just select, if we left click and drag, the bottom 2 anchor points. Now we can take this, left click, hold, drag, hold shift, and move it up. And that's one simple way that we can add basically a transformation to this using the direct selection tool. So this direct selection tool allows you to edit shape layers, and it's something that we'll be using frequently. So let's say, for example, we wanted to illustrate or design a pop-up window of some sort. We can use either a rectangle or a rounded rectangle tool. And we can see over here we have radius, and this depicts how big the corner radiuses will be. 4 is kind of small. We can really see it if we maybe notch it up to 10, and we left click and we could see those rounded rectangles. This option over here will also allow you to change them after you create them as well by altering these values. So let's change this color here. All right. And along with anchor points, you can also delete them. So if we only wanted the top portion to be right angles and left angles, we can. And also, again, we can always apply, if you wanted to give this a gradient for some reason, you double click, choose gradient overlay, and we can adjust all these options here consistent with the type of color that we want. So we can get this in here. Maybe make it a little bit lighter. Hit OK, OK, and OK. And that's how you add a very simple gradient. And of course, you can always edit these after because it's non-destructive. Now let's say we wanted to design a check mark. Now, this is where a pen tool would come into play. So if we zoom up and we take the pen tool can be in path, pixels, or shape. We want a shape for this particular option. And generally, when it comes to UI design, you're going to be using shape instead of path or pixels, okay? So shape, it makes a shape layer, but it allows you to control where the anchor points go. So it gives you more freedom over the types of shapes that you couldn't otherwise create over here by a polygon, ellipse, rounded, or rectangle. So let's go ahead and make a check mark. I'm just going to left click over here somewhere, hold shift, and this will give us either a straight up and down arrow, a 45-degree, or a flat horizontal line. So I'm going to make it a 45-degree, and then hold shift again and come up around over here to create a checkbox, or a check mark rather. And we can see that it's filling it in. All we have to do is click on just the direct selection area. We can get rid of the fill by clicking up here and clicking the red slash, and then we can give it a stroke. We'll make it white and increase the size. And there you go, a non-destructive check mark that you can create. And if you want to make changes to it, maybe this is sticking out too far, we just choose the direct selection tool and we can adjust it by holding shift and making it smaller. And that's basically the type of stuff that you're going to be doing about 90% of the time when you're working with a user interface design such as an app. So hopefully now you have a pretty decent understanding of how you begin to design and work with layers. In the next lesson, we're going to take a look at exporting assets.